Please be advised that this recorded webinar has been edited from its original format, which may have included a product demo and other engagement features. To set up a live demo, please complete the form above on our website. If you currently are not on our website and are watching this on our YouTube channel, there's a link to the website in the description of this video. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Optimizing Entity Compliance Through Technology. My name is Caitlin Aliberta, and I will be your moderator. Joining us today are Andrea Jonitis and David Jeffries. Andrea is one of our expert sales engineers, and David is the Senior Director of Product Management, specializing in global compliance. And with that, I would like to welcome and pass things over to Andrea and David.
Great, thank you so much. And we do want to say thank you to our audience for joining us today. We're really excited for today's webinar.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. David and I are so excited to have you with us as we dive into this discussion around how technology can be leveraged to simplify and optimize your entity compliance, and to briefly showcase a few of the ways that CSC can assist you with that initiative. So here's a look at our agenda for today. I do see some familiar faces on the line, but also some that I'm not quite familiar with. So we'll kick off with a little bit about CSC, who we are and what we do. We'll define entity management as a term, and we'll make sure that we're aligned in our understanding of the topic. We'll talk about some challenges with managing entity compliance and some of the ways that entity management software can address those challenges. Then we'll specifically focus on CSC's entity management solution. We're going to showcase a few of our client case studies, some clients that we've worked with and had some successes with, and ways that they have leveraged our software to meet their needs and solve their pain points. We'll wrap up with a quick demonstration of the technology, and we'll certainly leave time at the end for a Q&A. David and I are also actively monitoring the Q&A widget, so there's the opportunity for you to submit your thoughts, your comments, your questions. We will do our very best to answer those questions either throughout our conversation today in a live discussion, or also through the Q&A widget. So please don't hesitate to fill that chat with all of your questions, thoughts, so that we can maximize our time together. So briefly, to kick off, a little bit about us. Again, if you're not familiar with who CSC is as an organization, we're globally headquartered in Wilmington, Delaware. We have a physical presence on 5 continents. CSC is a privately held organization, and we date all the way back to 1899. Over 90% of the Fortune 500 utilize CSC for at least one of our services, and over 20% of the Fortune 500 are specifically utilizing CSC's entity management system as their portfolio management solution. While we do have over 125 years of experience in the US and global markets, we effectively doubled our presence and the size of our team and added decades more experience through the acquisition of the Intertrust Group about 3 years ago now. This strategic acquisition really expanded the depth and breadth of our already extensive service offerings around the world. So we're pleased to, again, kind of grow the services and solutions that we're able to provide by bringing together 2 stellar teams. So getting into really, our topics for the day, just a little bit about, defining entity management and making sure that we're in alignment there. I'd like to bring David into the conversation so that we can kick off the core content of our discussion today. David, over to you.
Excellent. Yeah, I appreciate that. So obviously we want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So we're going to start with what is entity management? And it's really, a lot of things. For the purposes of this slide, we're talking about entity management as a kind of a practice or a discipline. And so in sort of one form, shape, or another, the folks joining us today are entity management practitioners. And so there's a lot that goes into that. I think if you had to distill it to its most sort of core vital element, it's about keeping companies in compliance. And of course, keeping an entity in compliance in Delaware may not be the same as what you need to do to keep an entity in compliance in, say, Luxembourg or the Caymans, right? And so there's a lot of nuance in terms of what it actually means to be able to do that effectively when you have entities that are spanning in different states or different countries potentially around the world. Beyond just sort of managing compliance, there's a need to have sort of at fingertip access to data, documents, compliance events, structure charts, and more. And so there's quite a lot that goes into having all that information effectively at your fingertips. The corporate legal departments, more often than not, are sort of the group that is charged with maintaining an organization's legal entities, but it's very much a team sport, sort of an interdepartmental discipline where you're leveraging information from the tax and accounting teams and vice versa. So there's kind of a need not only to collaborate within legal, but sort of, outside of legal and other parts of the organization as well. So there's a lot of need for, securely being able to collaborate and share that information. The second to last bullet point might be one of the most important ones on the slide, which is that this is a fluid situation. You are, again, with some regularity, forming entities, maybe having a project where you do a name change, qualifications, you're dissolving, you're merging. It's not just sort of a static exercise where the portfolio of entities that you're managing is the same today as it was a year ago, and it's probably not going to be the same 6 months to a year from now, right? So there's a lot that goes into staying on top of all those changes, which in many cases dictate changes to structure charts, changes to data that's required in regulatory filings. So there's a lot to sort of stay on top of when these types of changes occur. And then the last bullet point I think is also meaningful, which is that while there are some organizations that might attempt to go it alone, where they're handling all their own filings internally, and there may be hobbling along with spreadsheets and shared drives to track this information, more commonly, organizations are looking to partner with providers either on the service side of the house to have providers that handle regulatory filings, and or engaging with providers for technology that can assist them. And so specifically, as we get a little bit deeper into the deck, we're saying that entity management is a discipline and a practice. But really, as we shift deeper into the presentation, we're going to be more often than not talking about entity management as a software technology solution to help clients organize and manage their legal entities. So with that as a backdrop, what are some of the challenges that organizations face? And so I sort of alluded to this briefly on the prior slide, where again, if you are maybe a multinational organization or even just one that's domestic here in the States, but doing business across the country, there's a lot of nuance and complexity in terms of what's due when, where, and why. And then certainly if you are a multinational global organization, you have stakeholders that are in different parts of the world. You might have external third parties that you work with around the world, and it becomes really challenging to collaborate and work through just sort of the day-to-day things that need to be done. Certainly, there's also a real challenge around collaborating in a secure fashion where you can share what you want to share and kind of keep private the information that you want to keep private. So there's a lot of challenges around that. And then one of the trends that we've seen for almost a decade at this point is that corporate legal departments, again, typically tasked with the bulk of the entity management responsibility, have been asked to do more with less for quite some time. And so again, as opposed to sort of the do-it-alone approach, there's opportunities for partnering, right, or outsourcing services and technology to kind of get you where you need to go. And then certainly one of the challenges that we see with entity management is that it's not uncommon where an organization might have, provider or partner A for, let's say, registered agent services in the States. They might be using a provider B for an entity management software program. They might have provider C, D, and E for different sort of corporate secretarial work that is performed around different parts of the globe. And so what ends up happening with that sort of approach is that information is really fragmented. Information's in different systems. Sometimes you're not sure who you need to contact based on the entity and scope for a filing that might need to occur. And so commonly, there's a tremendous benefit to consolidating service and technology with a provider that can kind of bring everything together in a more cohesive fashion. So as I noted before, entity management software, which is really the term that we'll be using going forward, is purpose-built technology to assist organizations with the task of keeping their entity data, documents, structure charts, compliance events, and more in order and together. And so there are sort of, again, tremendous benefits to implementing entity management software. The question of the slide is, why would you do this? And I'd almost say you'd be crazy not to. It's not something where you've got to cobble along with spreadsheets and shared drives, et cetera. And so these platforms notably can create a undisputable source of truth for your entity legal information, which is critical. We'll talk more about that concept as we go deeper into the deck. They can create opportunities for automation. Click a button and get a structure chart. Click a button and create documents. Click a button and get reporting, as opposed to trying to do this all manually, which is incredibly inefficient. And so there are a lot of value propositions that just sort of spring up immediately in terms of having this type of modern software. The last bullet point is where I get really excited. I'm just going to kind of plant the seed now. We'll unpack it in a few slides, but more modern entity management systems also afford you the opportunity to effectively share information between platforms. So maybe there's information in a tax system that you want to see represented in your entity system or vice versa. And so instead of having to sort of rekey data in multiple systems, which is prone for error, it's also very inefficient, these systems effectively now can talk to one another through modern integrations. Again, planting the seed for now, but we'll get back to that in a little bit more detail later on in the deck.
Okay, that's great. So let's hone in a little bit on CSC's entity management solution and the functionality that we can bring to the table to help you to manage your corporate compliance. So this is a high-level overview of really a plethora of features that CSC Entity Management brings to the table, but I really want to reinforce that the platform is more than just a collection of features. It is very thoughtfully designed and purpose-built to provide an intuitive and easy-to-use system that is really a one-stop shop for all things related to your entity lifecycle maintenance. Of course, you can manage all different types of data within the platform, from basic entity details and officer and director appointments to shareholders and capital and ownership structures. The system does support an unlimited number of custom data fields across a variety of modular areas. So you're able to track pretty much anything that could be important to you, and you can utilize those custom data fields in a variety of areas, like your reports, your structure charts that you generate. The visualization of the portfolio ownership through the structure chart tool is automated within our platform, where you can simply, with a couple of clicks of a button, as David highlighted, you can access graphic or text-based org charts, again, in a really intuitive and automated fashion. Then, of course, as it relates to documents, not only can you store an unlimited number of documents in the platform, but we also streamline the process of finding documents with built-in optical character recognition, or OCR for short, and full text searching to be able to, again, identify those documents or locate them quickly. Beyond just basic document storage, we have a document generation feature, which enables customers to create and store document templates and follow a simple guided workflow to generate one or multiple documents in a bulk project. The platform is integrated with DocuSign electronic signature for the circulation of documents and easy routing back into the filing cabinet. Arguably, one of the most important features or capabilities of an entity management system is to keep you on track and organized with your dates and deadlines. Our software automatically calendars U.S. Secretary of State deadlines based on the entities and jurisdiction details within the system. We also can provide the same level of deadline automation when paired with our global subsidiary management services. We can proactively handle the compliance needs of entities in over 140 jurisdictions around the globe. So there are plenty of features, but I would like to actually show you a live look at the software at the end of our session today so that you can truly get a sense for the power of the application. And really, speaking of power, with CSC's Entity Management System, even with the robust features that we offer, I kind of hinted at the automation that you'll experience when the technology is paired with CSC's services. So we have a whole suite of compliance services that are available to our customers. When we provide those services, data elements and documents and records will flow automatically into the application. So here's just some of the compliance services that we offer. We're able to provide compliance services all around the world, and CSC is the leading provider of business administration and compliance solutions. We have regional hubs for our services in North America, EMEA, and APAC. We've been providing U.S. registered agent service since our inception over 125 years ago now, and we specialize in actually quite a variety of other services beyond basic registered agent. So we can provide transaction services such as formations, qualifications, dissolutions, apostilles. We provide annual report filing services. We, as I previously just mentioned a moment ago, can provide global corporate secretarial maintenance and SPV services around the world. And so you'll see a high level of automation with our technology when we provide those types of services for you. So that brings us into a critical topic, which is what makes CSC Entity Management different. And I would say there are a lot of things that really distinguish CSC from other providers in the marketplace. One of the most critical distinctions is that we combine our industry-leading service with our world-renowned technology. And so we really kind of pair the two together to bring a end-to-end solution for our customers. We're very unique in that we're not just a service company and not just a technology company, but really a pairing of the two, and proud to do both of them well. So we are a leader across both of those areas. We strive to make portfolio maintenance easier for our customers by automating the technology, again, with our services, and also providing incredibly powerful technology solutions that you can leverage proactively on your own outside of CSC services. it really does make us feel satisfied when customers tell us how easy our technology is to use. So we love hearing that the software is intuitive, that we provide valuable features, and that the technology affords actionable data. No one wants an entity management system that's going to be difficult to navigate or cumbersome to keep up to date. So any opportunity that we have to make your life easier is really important to us, whether it's through the automation of the US and global deadlines on the calendar, whether it's through key integrations offered with the technology, such as the Workday human capital management integration or the DocuSign integration, for example. We really want to bring those efficiencies to your process and workflows, saving you time, saving you money, minimizing risk, and so forth. Security also is a critical distinguisher for CSC. We offer the highest levels of security, protection. Our technology is SOC 2 Type 2 compliant or SOC 2 Type 2 certified, as is kind of CSC as a whole organization. We undergo that certification annually. Every employee takes that certification. And so we have kind of a team of specialists that are dedicated to ensuring that we are fairly bulletproof, if you will. So again, the encryptions, the protections, the penetration tests and ethical hacking that we undergo, we really want to make sure that we are able to meet and exceed really any security requirement that even the toughest customers might have in place. So security is a big distinguisher for CSC. We're also extremely dedicated to our software, and we strive to continue to invest in the technology. David's going to share with you some of the enhancements that we've made recently, as well as where we're going a little bit later. So this multi-year roadmap really allows us to continue to grow and invest and bring new and important features to the entity management solution so that we can continue to evolve our tool as your needs change over time as well. And we include those enhancements as part of our subscription. So you'll find that CSC wants to just provide all the things that you're going to need to be successful. So our flat rate annual subscription fee is inclusive of all of the features of the tool, unlimited users at no extra cost. We don't charge per user costs or seat license fees. That includes any selection of role-based permissions that make sense, whether it's read-only, edit capabilities, maybe no visibility and access to certain entities or areas within the application. Of course, that subscription also includes unlimited training and support. We want to make sure that everyone understands how to utilize the tool and maximize their benefit. So we want to, again, just include all of that in the technology and the subscription. So that brings us to CSC's entity management solution really serving as a centralized source of truth. David used that term, centralized source of truth, when he was talking there. And really what that means, again, is to have CSC's entity management solution provide the ability to have that centralized, undisputed place where you can go, or your partners or anybody else that you permission into the tool can access, and you have 100% confidence in the accuracy, the completeness of the data and information, and just really a solid understanding and confidence in the status of your portfolio there. Portfolio maintenance really becomes a breeze when you have clean, vetted data information as the foundation. And if you are managing data or uploading documents within the application, we want that, again, to be very efficient, very intuitive, and with the granular role-based permissions or user access. Again, we're going to make secure sharing and collaboration with internal and external stakeholders possible. Our platform can also be integrated with other third-party applications so that you can further simplify your processes. So if you're using other types of applications where data might be shared across entity management as well as those other technologies, we can, again, bring those efficiencies to the way that you're managing those systems by way of an API. So I'm going to bring David back into the conversation to share more about how we can connect our software to those other applications through this concept of an API integration.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andrea. This is the stuff that I kind of geek out on and get really excited about. And I really do think it's an example of where organizations can take their compliance really kind of to the next level, truly kind of, per our webinar title, optimizing their entity management practice. And so an API, just to kind of break down the terminology, that stands for Application Programming Interface, for those that might not be familiar with the term. And really, at the end of the day, it is a technology that allows two disparate systems to basically share information with one another. And so There are sort of a myriad of scenarios where this can be really powerful, which we'll talk about. The first thing that I want to mention before we go to the next slide, which also covers the API, is that from sort of our vantage point as a technology provider, there are two types of integrations that we think about. Again, integration being the sharing of information between two systems. We have a number of pre-built integrations where when you subscribe to our technology platform, you can basically click a button and start using an integration with another system. So specifically, we have an integration with DocuSign for organizations that want to do electronic signature collection through our software. That's off the shelf, ready to go. For organizations that might use Workday as their human capital management system, we'll talk about this a little bit more in a bit, but we have an integration off the shelf with Workday where effectively you can get alerts in entity management if there are personnel changes that could potentially impact your officer director records, which is really, really powerful. We also have a direct integration with the SEC's EDGAR database. So for those that are familiar, publicly traded companies have a filing obligation known as Section 16. For those that where that rings a bell, we've also certainly done work to comply with the new SEC standard known as EDGAR Next. So short story there is that our clients using CSC Entity Management can file Forms 3, 4, and 5 directly with the SEC's EDGAR database for those insiders that have that reporting requirement. And there's another pre-built integration that I'll talk about on our roadmap slide that's coming live in about 2 months that we're really, really excited about. But in addition to those off-the-shelf integrations where if you want it, we got it, it's there ready to use right away, there's also the concept of what we call custom integrations. The idea being that I've got information in CSC's platform and I want to share it with another application. Maybe I want to feed documents from CSC into a document management system. Maybe there are data elements in CSC that I want to push into a tax program. And so if it's not available off the shelf where it's just ready to go, we have an integration where you can, again, with a little bit of work, configure it such that you can support those types of integrations. We have what we call bidirectional or inbound and outbound data sharing capabilities. Right now, when it comes to documents, we're able to push documents out, but we have a roadmap project that's going to introduce the ability to actually push documents into CSC Entity Management as well. Now, if you take a look at the next slide, this gets into some sort of hypothetical examples, but these are real-world examples, certainly in terms of clients that we work with that have executed on these custom integrations and are interested. And so effectively, there's this concept of an upstream system that is potentially pushing data into CSC Entity Management. So it could be a tax system or an accounting system. So the idea being, don't manually key in that text code or that accounting number into your entity platform, have the systems speaking to one another and have that information fed into CSC Entity Management. And so there's this source of truth concept that we talk about, and certainly entity management can be that for your legal entity information, but it is not the only source of truth that certainly you would have within your enterprise, right? There's a system that's the source of truth for HR records, there's a system that's the source of truth for tax, a different system that's the source of truth for contracts. And so get these various sources of truth, sharing information back and forth with one another to create efficiencies and reduce risk within your organization. So that's sort of the crux of what these integrations allow our organizations or our clients to do within their enterprise. Now, the next part of the presentation kind of transitions into some client profile case studies. Now, we have anonymized these, but I assure you that these are very much real clients with real challenges that they've been able to overcome using the CSC Entity Management software program. I'll also mention as a bit of a precursor to the 3 examples that we'll share is that we have organizations that use CSC Entity Management that really run the gamut in terms of clients with a literal handful of entities to clients that have thousands of legal entities that they're managing within the system and sort of everything in between. So we try to take a little bit of a 3 bears, what are the 3 little bears approach, where we have sort of a small to mid-size, a medium, and sort of a larger client. That's kind of the examples here. But effectively, it's all different ways that our technology has solved meaningful challenges for clients that are using our software. So with that as a backdrop, I'll do the first client profile case study, and then Andrea will come in and do the next 2. So the first case study is sort of a small to medium-sized client, more than 50 entities, but less than 100. They happen to have a multinational portfolio mix of US and non-US companies, happen to be publicly traded. Critically, they didn't have an entity management system in place. So they were doing the best they could with things like spreadsheets and shared drives to keep everything, kind of together. And then what happened to them, which is not uncommon, and this happened fairly recently, is they went through a really large merger. And as a consequence, they had to go through a process of consolidating and sort of really rationalizing what are all these entities, which ones do we need, how do they come together from an ownership org chart perspective. And so it really became, using their words, an unmanageable situation without having software to assist them in that endeavor. And so really the solution is quite simple. They were using CSC for some of our compliance services, but they then elected to implement the CSC Entity Management software platform, and it did very quickly create that undisputable source of truth for their legal entity information where they could collaborate. And then the visualization features, which I'm sure Andrea will show everyone in the demo in just a bit, became a really powerful mechanism where, again, press a button and get immediate visualization about how all of these entities, sort of both the legacy entities and the newly acquired entities, come together from an ownership perspective. And so that was the solution. And then the end result is they're really quite thrilled that with the experience that they're having within the platform, really giving them what they need in terms of that source of truth, and the automation of the org charts also being really kind of a critical key win for them in sort of this new world that they find themselves in post this large merger acquisition that they went through. So with that, I'm going to toss it over to my colleague Andrea to take us through the second and third client profile case studies.
Sure. So the next client that we wanted to highlight is about double the size of the last example. So this is a privately held investment advisor. They came to us for a better way to manage their US only portfolio. What they were doing was, sorry, I misclicked there. What they were doing was they were utilizing a third-party file sharing system, kind of in lieu of investing in a full-blown entity management solution. Some clients do look to those types of file sharing solutions rather than implementing a fully blown entity management solution, which may bring some efficiencies in pricing, but it often just leads to a compromise in functionality and a host of other issues. One of the biggest challenges that this customer cited was how much time and effort was being wasted due to trying to collaborate on the platform and trying to access documents within that system. In their words, again, efficiency was destroyed. So they needed to find a better way to make documents accessible to folks, kind of manage the permissions in a more simplified way. The solution was CSC's Entity Management Platform. Again, we really leveraged the document management suite here, and that kind of was the draw for them to adopt the entity management system. We were able to eliminate the issues that they were experiencing with that other platform in a variety of ways. So I talked briefly about how our technology enables optical character recognition, and full text searching can help make documents or finding documents a lot easier. Also, we have a document generation workflow. So this particular client, when they had an officer or director change that would impact a bunch of entities kind of all at the same time, they really were struggling with, again, kind of the access and visibility of getting those documents generated and making those documents accessible across multiple teammates and stakeholders. Leaning on that document generation workflow, the client was able to design and store a variety of document templates. They gained the efficiency of generating documents for dozens of entities in a bulk action, and that centralization and automation ultimately helped us to bridge the gap for this client and to improve operational efficiencies. Again, in their words, they said it was truly game-changing. So the last customer that we want to highlight for us briefly here, again, amping up the size even more, this is a large publicly traded multinational Fortune 500 company. They have over 300 entities. They are working in the technology sector, and this client did actively have a competitor's entity management solution. Now, even though they had a formal entity management solution in place, they found that they still lacked visibility that they needed in terms of employee changes across the organization, especially when those changes to employees would impact the director and officer records that they had within the technology, and thus kind of compromise the accuracy of their US and global compliance filings. So not only were we able to bring to the table exceptional technology that provided the same capabilities and perhaps greater features and a greater level of security, so they had exactly what they were used to within their existing system, we brought the added value of our integration with the Workday Human Capital Management System. That's the technology that their HR team was utilizing for managing their employees. With that integration, our customers are able to complete a one-time mapping exercise where you can take a look at the records, the director and officer records in CSC's Entity Management Platform. You make a one-time mapping selection to link those entity management records with the corresponding employee records within the Workday system. Now, current day, rather than waiting days and sometimes weeks to receive the message from HR that there was changes to the employees, this client gained the ability to see real-time updates and task notices within the entity management system. So entity management prompts them to see a notification and a task list indicating the details of the change that were made within the Workday system, and allowing them to decide if some data updating is necessary within the entity management platform, and if it would necessitate some type of officer director filing or other compliance follow-up. So being able to bring that proactive notice so that the customer could be more proactive instead of reactive really helped the client. And again, in their words, bringing improved transparency to the personnel changes was tremendously reducing risk and improving the filing accuracy. As I mentioned, CSC's Entity Management System is more than just a collection of features, but as an organization, CSC also recognizes that features and functionality really does matter. This is an instance where a particular feature was a highlight and really a benefit to the customer. This understanding is what drives us to continue to invest in our technology and to release new features on a regular basis. I mentioned before, we recognize that your needs change over time. Your entity management solution also needs to evolve with you. So that's a great segue to our next section, which is for David to share with you some of the most recent enhancements that we've made to CSC's entity management technology and some of the future enhancements you can expect to see from us soon.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. I couldn't say it better. These platforms are more than a collection of features, but the features matter, right? Because they solve real business problems. So for our client one profile, it was really org charts was one of the big victories. For the next client, the document generation feature was, again, game-changing in their words. And then for that third example, it was our integration with Workday that solved the key business challenge. So these features certainly are critical. What you're seeing on the screen now is kind of a look back. I'm often looking forward, but this is nice to do a quick little look back of some of the enhancements we've developed in the platform for the past 5 years or so. Not going to go through all of these. There's not enough time for that. I appreciate that I'm the thing separating you from Andrea's great demo that we're going to see in a few minutes. But really, kind of a key takeaway is the continual investment in new features in the platform. And we are hyper active in terms of talking to clients, talking to prospective clients that evaluate the software and understanding where are areas where we can improve and solve more challenges for our customers. And so if there are themes, if I had to kind of pull out some themes of development that we've done over the past 5 or so years, there's definitely more off-the-shelf integrations. There's more flexibility with custom integrations. There's more internationalization, automating compliance events. I've got a big upgrade that I'm about to talk about that's also on the kind of the international front. And also basically having workflow capabilities in the platform as well around org charts, generating documents, and more. So those are some of the themes that really come out of the work that we've done in the recent past in the platform. And that investment will continue. There is a sort of, again, a clear understanding at the highest levels of our company that this is a mission critical application for our clients in terms of managing their both US and multinational entity portfolios. So with all of that, just sort of as a little bit of a backdrop, I get really excited to talk about where we're going. And so the next 2 slides have just some highlights of our current 2025 roadmap. So there's already a couple things that we've delivered in terms of new features earlier this year. But the next feature to go live, which is looking like the September timeframe, is a pre-built integration with Companies House, which many folks will know is the business registry in the United Kingdom. So this is the authority for where your UK entities would ultimately be registered. So I talked about pre-built integrations that we have with DocuSign for e-signatures, Workday for HR integration, the Edgar Next system if you have the SEC filing obligation. This becomes our next off-the-shelf integration that we'll bring to our clients, which becomes, as Andrea talked about, just a part of their subscription. You're getting all these features automatically when you subscribe to the platform. And so specifically, this will allow our clients within CSC Entity Management to file directly with Companies House in the UK for their annual confirmation statement. So that's sort of our initial foray with this offering, where we're going to stand up this filing center where there's a guided workflow where you can essentially fill out these regulatory forms and submit your annual confirmation statement to the UK. On the heels of this release, we're going to get right back at it, building out additional filing types that we know our clients will look to do in the United Kingdom. So things like formations, dissolutions, director changes, and more. So this is sort of phase 1 of a multi-phase project to make sort of a fully comprehensive suite of filing services available in a self-service fashion, where clients, again, can interface directly with the filing registry in the UK, which is Companies House, and file electronically through CSC Entity Management, leveraging data that they are managing within our platform as well, along that guided workflow to actually complete those Companies House forms. So very, very excited about this new capability. There's never just one thing that we're working on. There's always several things that we have kind of in the lab or in flight in terms of development. And so one of the other features that we're quite excited about, this is looking more like the October, maybe November timeframe of this year, is what we're calling org chart modeling. So today, and I'm sure Andrea will get there if I can stop talking, we'll see org charts. But today you can run charts that show you your current structures, You can also go into the past and see what structures look like historically speaking. This actually lets you go sort of into a potential future where you can model out different scenarios. What if we did this acquisition, or if we formed this new subsidiary, or if we dissolved this series of entities? And so you can in real time model out these scenarios and save them effectively, on screen out of the application, so you can kind of go through an exercise of understanding what those life cycle changes would have to your structure charts. There's also a nod there to compact charts. So if you have an org chart where you have, let's say, a whole series of entities that fall under one owner, and maybe it's creating a little bit of kind of a horizontal view, and you want to make things more compact and just sort of take advantage of the page more, so to speak, we're going to create some on-screen capabilities to further manipulate the layout of the entities within the org charts themselves. And then we also excitingly have our first artificial intelligence enhancement in the works. And so we are generating or creating, I should say, a bulk import feature for documents. So we'll have an ability to upload multiple documents to a screen, and then you'll have the ability to leverage an AI engine that can effectively read the documents and make suggestions in terms of the entities and the folders where those documents should live within the technology platform. Now, as excited as people are about AI, and we have more AI features in plan for next year as well, we also are talking with clients that have concerns. They're really cautious about it, and rightfully so. And so it's I think, important to note that as we build these AI features in our platform, we're going to do these in a very sort of intentional, thoughtful way, and also give our clients a mechanism essentially to say, I want to leverage these AI features, or perhaps I'm not interested in leveraging these AI features. So we will make them available to those that wish to use them in the platform, but create a means by which folks can effectively opt out if it's not a feature that they want to leverage in the technology platform. But really excited for our first AI-powered capability